I want the new parliament and the new government to have an ambition to achieve more, to achieve radical breakthroughs, because that's what we need. We want a lead which is significantly above the region. We need a few years at least of double-digit economic growth. And I would wish that new government and new parliament is not satisfied with anything less. But we must be careful. It doesn't mean that the government has to do everything. Quite on contrary. The only formula that has a high likelihood of success, if we look at other countries and examples, is the formula where government is very limited. More freedom is given to the population, to the businesses, to do their job. And the government that will come, the parliament that will come, has been chosen by us, the population of this country. We endow them with the trust to manage this country, and we just want them also to trust us a little bit more to manage our own life.
Parliament should be the unifier of the country. From what I see, the parliament that completed its work until now did not serve as a unifier of the country. The big problem is that the country is divided into 2, 3, 4 parts. There is much antagonism between the population that we are incapable of creating a functioning state. It will be my great wish for the parliament we are electing now to unite Georgia's people. We often say that we have a problem with the occupied territories. However, we have the main problem with the population of Georgia. This is because there is a division of the population according to political affiliation. The clash is nasty, and it will hopefully end.
I think that first of all, they should look for consolidating the entire society to strengthen all the efforts in order to change the fundamental things in terms of educational system, which is most important one, I believe, in the long run. Next one is judiciary system, because it should be smart, effective to resolve all the business or property cases. And the next one, I believe, is that public administration should be more smart, and there should be more transparency on the public funding spending, and also there should be more effective. We need public administrations.
The key to making decisions quickly and efficiently is to listen to business complaints and understand them. The state has to consider and understand that businesses create jobs in this country, while the government only creates the environment. The problem we face most often is prolonged decisions, incorrectly written and then corrected articles in the law, bureaucracy, business hindering due to slow decision-making, and etc. I would use only one example about the last component. Say I have a specific land. I should not have to go from one agency to another while being at the stage of investment. This small country's charm is that we have to move faster when we have the resources and the opportunities to do so.
First, fighting corruption. Zero tolerance against corruption, because corruption has spread a lot in the past 8 years. Fighting criminality. Criminality has spread a lot in the past 8 years. We are back to the Shevardnadze times. Reinstalling confidence with investors, having like a special department to follow up on investors' issues to make sure that all their problems are solved and they have no problems. Making sure that the economy grows properly and that we have enough influx of foreign currency for the lari to stabilize. Starting to grow our economy in reality and not on paper.
Unfortunately, our country lives from election to election, which means that long-term, stable and sustainable development is not provided for business. People are planning their lives according to governmental change, and that is not good. Now everyone's attention is heavily focused on elections, therefore other processes such as economic activity are completely delayed. Many bureaucratic and deadlocked legislative norms are still in force today. Hence, many reforms need to be carried out. The construction business should not be deregulated, but regulation should be moderate. We are not a European country where everything has already been built. We have a country to build. Therefore, directly adhering to the EU standard and creating a high bureaucracy is absolutely unacceptable. We do not have the luxury of that.
I think it should be really clear communication from the government, from parliament, and from the country, investment condition for investors. What any investor in the world hate when they expected new government and they expect that it can be new regulation which is cancel the previous regulation. So consistency and open mind for investors, I think it's a key. And I think we all know that many countries have no parliament for a while when the economy is growing. Belgium, for example, they didn't have a government and for more than a year, and the economy was up because most of the businesses understand that it's a perfect period when you can focus on business and don't expect any interruption with the new law. So, of course, if any new parliament or government or any coalition will continue focus on developing the country, I think it would be the best for everybody.
ჩემი როგორც საქართველოს მოქალაქის მოლოდინი
I do expect that this coalition government will be imbued with respect for each other. I have a demand. In anticipation of this, there is a public demand that people, including politicians and especially politicians, respect each other. They should stop remembering and mentioning the difficulties we had 8, 12 or 14 years ago and start working toward the future. After this pandemic, we won't have the luxury of thinking and talking about past mistakes. We'll have to take care of a future development. I, Levan Akhmediani, not just a businessman or a company representative, but also a citizen of this country, would want to access different values after 4 years. I want the election programs given by candidates after 4 years to be much more logical to evaluate. Today we all see that election programs are weak. We're asked to choose political preferences in terms of personal belonging.
Business expects from the next election to receive a more stable political environment because what we have last years, there's a lot of political struggles. That's why the business environment is not perfect. So the main goal should be for the next government, next parliament to provide, to ensure the political stability, and it will be it helps to improve and make better business environment.
Business generally and all industries in this country and the people representing industry, I'm representing tourism industry and hospitality industry generally, is expecting to have new government after elections which will be more committed to their goals, will be actually motivated to change the situation, to make country successful and more democratization, actually I would suggest, and make a fair judgment, fair court, fair jurisprudence, and obviously to actually to press their own ego working on the government places and the government actually positions, and work as a team with other parts of the government, with other players of politicians and administrators, and I don't know, I mean, anybody working for the country as a government body, and having the team, looking for the teamwork, and be more professional and actually look for the results and not just burning and spending time and having the salaries actually generated by taxpayers.
And this is the Checkpoints, hosted and co-authored by Elena Kvanchilashvili and myself. I'm Georgi Sakadze. What you've just heard is the voice of the business community, quite a big portion of it, setting an agenda and forming expectations ahead.
Yes, election day has passed. Today is the second day, and us being a business and economy-oriented media, we give ourselves some time to analyze what the impact of this election will be on the business climate in this country. So you will hear more from us on election updates next week.
Prior to that, what we can provide some insights into the current situation in terms of the economy, pandemic, general environment, and the logic behind the decision-making, both from a public and private perspective.
Yes, and the roles here are clear. You talked with the government and I talked with the business.
So let's see how that works and what Beka Lilashvili, Prime Minister's economic advisor and assistant, has to say prior to the final sale from the people, whether he gets a seat in the parliament or not. Beka Lilashvili sat down with the checkpoints a couple of days ago before the elections to give an overview and perspective of the Georgian economy as seen by the government. During the pandemic, while anti-crisis measures were launched by the government, you held various meetings through and by participating of donors, our partners, with some analytical centers, economists. They were advising, but we are not in charge what was advised, what was accomplished, what was taken into consideration. What was the format of that meetings, which was regularly held, and what is the results? Do we need them more? Are they in charge still, or where do we stand?
All right, so thank you first of all for inviting me. So as you are informed, yes, so I'm confirming that we had a various meeting, and we're still having, and during the last week the Prime Minister and the government, the economic team of the government had a meeting with the business, with the private sector. So basically we of course had a meeting with the private sector and the most affected businesses as well. Also, we had a meeting with the analytical capacities that are represented in Georgia. We had a very active communication with them, and they were very motivated to propose some additional, not additional, but the basic and then additional measures that might, at that moment, seem to be the most efficient one. Of course, some of the recommendations were not eligible because of the realizability or because of the funding. Because at that time we lacked some sort of financing, and we were actively coordinating with the donors to raise the funds for the sufficient measures to implement. So basically, some of the recommendations that gave us the direction where we need to like intervene with these measures, the certain sectors or certain businesses, and the identification process of the target groups. And the related recommendations were taken into consideration, but most systematic work with the analytical groups and with the experts was initiated by the government itself.
Okay.
We, with help of our donors, USAID and also UNDP, we contracted the international level economists. We are still having them on board. So one group is the let's say the Washington School representatives, and the other ones are the institutional economists. So basically, what was the idea behind it? So to hear from both sides and both ideological lines the recommendations, and to compare, let's say so, to how they are like observing and how are they seeing the future development in the global and the local economies.
Do you personally consider these economists and these analytical centers, local and their headquarters, who were engaged in the process, as the co-authors of your political vision? I mean, within the political vision, economic platform, which was declared by the Georgian Dream. Were their recommendations just taken into consideration, or can we consider their status as co-authors or
no,
members of
the basic recommendations were totally in line with the current and the
Georgian origin. We can say.
I mean, the recommendations that we heard from them was totally in line with the political line of the economic politic, let's say. So we didn't had a chance to hear from them something that is completely different or the radical one than we're already implementing. So basically, we took their recommendations into account when we were drafting this vision and the
But we do not consider them as a co-authors.
No,
or sure. But
frankly speaking,
you've been a part of all the specific units, team, anti-crisis councils, what was created during this period. What measures you personally, as a part of the team, can you consider that work most effectively?
Right.
And do you consider some of them, if any, would you definitely change if knowing the source of pandemic differently, as you are updated and myself today?
I got the question. So basically, from the first day when we identified the first positive case, we've created the both directions. So on the governmental level, the special committee or commission was created that is still represented there, and they are actively working how to manage the pandemic and spreading the virus. And the other committee was created, and in the committee were represented the parliament, Georgia Parliament, and the representatives of the Parliament. Of course, also the line ministers were there, and all of the economic team that the government itself owns was there. So they're still institutionally this board is still active, and time to time they're making the meetings, but it's not how to say during this pre-election period and during the election period, it was not really how to say the legislation that doesn't give us the right to express some information about the measures and additional support, so it's prohibited. So basically, to give you the exact answers on the question, so we had a two direction. The measures were implemented to secure the social safety nets. This is the first direction, and the second direction was the liquidity to avoid the liquidity crunch in the private sector and in the financial sector as well. So I think, as the economist, the one of the biggest risks to my mind, I mean, personally from my perspective, was the liquidity crunch that might occur during the crisis, and also the real estate crisis. So basically, when the crisis creates the liquidity crunch, then the loan portfolio is like the quality of portfolio is falling. Then we are observing the price drop in the real estate sector. So basically, you need the strong policy to secure the price level on the market. So basically, for me as the economist, the biggest challenge was this. So basically, when we implemented this development support measure that was economically
mortgages and
economically, for me, that was the biggest the
impact.
Not the impact, but biggest the rightest, or how to say, the efficient, the most efficient. The most economically most efficient, if we taking into consideration not only the current alternatives, but the how to say, the alternative costs of the if the probable risks would materialize, then we would get how to say, the huge impact, the biggest impact probably that might occur from the crisis. Yeah. So this is the measures that, to my understanding, and from my perspective, that was most efficient, and there also including also the credit guarantee scheme as well. So basically, from the private sector, during the last couple of weeks, we are informed, and we have continuous communication with them, that they are telling us that a little bit corrections might be done in this credit guarantee scheme, meaning the procedure to light the procedure. So basically, we're now preparing the draft of changes in this corresponding legislation. Yeah. So basically, those changes will be implemented.
Do you think that can we predict from today that the economic team from the executive of the executive branch,
right,
I mean the government, is going to be changed dramatically, or it's too hard to say today? It's just Sunday. That is going to be.
Frankly speaking, I have no idea, but of course the political leadership will discuss it internally, and we will get the
things happen. Yeah.
Information done.
Becca, my pre-final question is still about the competitive advantage of your economic platform. Why it was taken into consideration from our society, why they should choose again Georgian dream and its economic vision after this 8 years from today?
So basically, I can split my answer into two directions.
And I know that you're in charge of economic platforms of your of other political parties.
Yeah. So basically, the one part of my answer would be that we showed to the society that the main concept of our economic policy during this 8 years was quite efficient. So we got the results, and we improved systematically our economic structure of the country, and we performed quite well. This is the one.
And you have this feedback from the
we do.
society.
We do, not just from society, but we have, and the election showed that we have that we have this
impact.
And also we have the assessment from the international society as well. So international institutions are continuously
IFIs, all of them.
IFIs ratings and other institutions. So, and the other thing is if we compare our program with the opponent's program, then we are clearly identifying that our program is realistic. It's realizable. How to say it? I mean,
you mean you are talking about the precise calculations?
Precise calculations. It not defines only the realisticity of the program is not defined only with the correct calculations, but also
just figures. Yeah.
How you are performing within the political frame that you have already on your shoulders, right? So basically,
you're talking about the intent and implementation.
Sure. So basically,
which is different in their which is quite different.
Which is quite different because the opponents, the program, the economic part of the program that they are presenting and they were presenting, basically is showing that the authors of those figures is not really well informed. How to compensate the huge, let's say, the populistic measure that they are pushing forward. And this is the one part, and the other part is that they are selling to the public that they will make the huge changes and shift the economy from one point to the way hard. And so it is when we're talking that Georgia is a small country with the huge openness, and you are the part of the global economy, it's impossible to put such kind of, let's say, the promises in the election program. It's not really sounds realistic.
Hope to see you soon again in Forbes. Thank you so much for being with us.
Now, more from business, namely from a systemic bank, Bank of Georgia CEO Archil Gachechiladze.
Let's tell our viewers that the inspiration to talk to him came from the exclusive interviews that you conducted with Fitch Ratings, which said that at least 2 more quarters are needed to see what the real impact of the pandemic is on the banking sector in Georgia.
Correct, Georgi, and one more emphasis also, Fitch called the regulator's approach towards Georgia's banking sector quite unique. This is a direct quote, meaning that other regulators allowed banks not to provision against banks' potential deterioration of the loans at the moment of the pandemic to avoid direct capital hit, but rather to stretch out these reserves in time so that banks could gradually realize them. On this and much more, Archilga Chechiladze sat down with the checkpoints.
It will take us at least 1 to 2 more quarters to see what the impact of this crisis was. These are not my words. This is what Fitch told us in the recent exclusive interview. So what is your take on what impact did COVID-19 have or does have on the sector generally and on Bank of Georgia specifically?
Yes, well, COVID-19 is not a Georgian thing. It's a worldwide thing, and it's affecting us definitely in a major way. So when we saw that COVID was a big issue in China, and it was little by little coming to Georgia, the government and the National Bank have basically taken a decision to have a major charge for the provisioning for the losses that we will encounter during this period of time, and we did create a reserve for the losses for the full year. But much more than the losses, I think the key here when the pandemic started and when the lockdown happened was to make sure that we continued servicing our clients throughout the lockdown. This is what the clients say, but on the other side, you have to keep in mind that making sure that our staff members get to work in a full lockdown when the public transport is not functioning, that's just one challenge. And the other challenge is to move all of the back office to work from home, and that was done within 10 days. And the third one, and that's an interesting one, is to make sure that our cash supply works so that our customers don't feel any problem. Now, the good news is that we have been able to manage this challenge pretty successfully, in fact. And by and large, we have been able to provide an uninterrupted supply of our services to our customers. And then after that, through this lockdown and afterwards also, we have been able to support our customers, especially the micro and SME customers, through provisions of either restructuring or in some cases the working capital facilities that they needed to make sure that they pay their employees. Now, besides this, there were liquidity and capital, and both on this, I think we have plenty of liquidity to make sure that we are able to issue loans to our customers who are in a position to borrow, as well as plenty of capital to make sure that we are very, very strongly standing. So it's a reliable partner throughout this pandemic and tough situation.
Since you mentioned this decision, NBG's decision for banks to preemptively create reserves that was around 1 billion against potential deterioration of loans. This is something that Fitch called quite unique approach from Georgia's central bank. This uniqueness stemming from Fitch's assessment that other regulators restrained from that kind of decision. So what is your take on that?
I think it was unique. Fitch is absolutely right that we have not seen other regulators do the same. So on one side, we saw Georgian regulator asking us to provide for all of the losses that we expected for the COVID-19 pandemic, while the other regulators have allowed the banks to take time to realize what this impact would be and then charge accordingly. I think the Georgian regulators' approach was conservative, and not all regulators can afford to be conservative. The reason why the Georgian regulator was able to do so is because the banks have plenty of capital. And that allows for this kind of conservative approach. At the same time, that created a bit of question mark on the side of the investors because they suddenly saw a deteriorating capital position, and that was based on the upfront charge, which is not unusual, but it was different from how other regulators approach. So we had to explain a bit more to our investors what was done. But after this explanation, I think everybody was calm, and I think our clients as well as the regulator was very happy with the fact that there was enough capital to see the full upfront charge, but at the same time plenty of capital regardless. And on this note, quite frankly, I have to add one more thing, that our investors see the capital ratios in Georgian standards, which is much more conservative than IFRS, the International Accounting Standards. And hopefully soon we will go to the International Accounting Standards, and our investors will see that there's much more capital in the system than the reported numbers, which are based again on much more conservative ratios for the methods that the National Bank employs.
Okay, you mentioned this word expectations several times, but uncertainty is also another word that we hear so often during this pandemic, and we hear this from like multiple stakeholders, be it experts, business, government, IFIs, everyone, so to say. So how do you deal with this uncertainty? And at this stage of pandemic, is there more certainty coming anywhere from anywhere?
2020 is a year of uncertainty, I would call it, right? It's really unclear how the pandemic is going to develop. Still is unclear when the cure will be available, if ever, and so forth. Nevertheless, there are three main things that we focus on, and one is the operational continuity, liquidity, and capital, and make sure that there's enough of all three for us to be comfortably serving our clients so that we are reliable partner in good times and bad times. After that, when we discuss the uncertainties, there's one friend of mine, a senior friend of mine, has told me, life comes one day at a time. And it's very important to remember that, because if you are in business and you are serving your clients and you have plenty of liquidity and capital, then after that, you have to remember, don't stress about everything, because the life is uncertain, and 2020 is even more uncertain.
Life comes one day at a time. And we also hear that this soundness, so to say, of the banking sector is very intertwined, and especially in Georgia, Bank of Georgia being one of the systemic banks, how the economy performs itself. Do you see this relation even tighter in these tough times? And what do the outlooks tell you? Because what we look at IFI's outlooks, we see that the recovery of the economy might not be as fast and as swift as expected on the early stage of pandemic.
So as you rightly said, making sure that our bank remains a reliable partner in good times and bad times is critical, not only from the perspective of being a good citizen, but also because we are acting as a major bank in Georgia, serving our retail as well as MSME clients and corporates. Going forward, what we see is that recovery will be there, but a lot will depend what happens with travel next year. So if tourism comes back, then we will see a lot of businesses recovering strongly. If we don't see the tourism come back next year, then we will have, I think, a sector that will have its it's difficult times, extend it for another year.
Your answer leads to a logical question about debt holidays by banks. Fitch told us that it will keep an eye on how these loans perform further, and this will be one of the key drivers of the next rating and next outlook. What is the tendency there?
In the initial period, I think that kind of holiday was very important, and it was quite costly, by the way, to us. Now we extend this kind of holidays or restructure the loans, provide the restructuring to people that have either lost their jobs or their income has significantly deteriorated. And there are some customers that have gone through this kind of difficulties, but luckily enough, it's a very small portion. It's less than 1/10 of our clients, so it's a single-digit percentage points that have required significant restructurings, and even smaller proportion that will require no interest payment during this period of time. So it's only 1 or 2%.
Mm-hmm. And my last question on uncertainty part, does lari devaluation have impact on this level of uncertainty in terms of doing business?
Absolutely. I think lari weakness introduces a layer of uncertainty in people's minds. For many reasons, even for the non-borrowers that are saving money or are making money in this environment because people have salary or savings or their businesses in lari terms. So having a very clear and transparent policy on that is very important.
Do we have that policy now?
I think there is a policy, but it could be a little bit more explanation for people what that policy means would be even better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, Fitch is stressing this high dollarization of the Georgian economy in general. One very interesting point, and let me read this out, is that Fitch differentiates direct losses from potential depreciation of lari that are usually quite limited, and it calls much more sizable the risk that comes from loan book dollarization. Is this reason or a result, and what this approach changes in the whole analysis then?
Very good question, thank you. So I think on one side we have seen real life adjustments in the currency, and this I want to recall the 2015 oil shock on the whole region when the currency lost significant part of its value, more than 1/3. And we saw how painful that was for our customers, but then customers adjusted to it. Regarding the dollarization, you have to keep in mind that if you have a strengthening lari vis-a-vis your trading partners, which depends on the efficiency of the economy in long term, you will have a growing economy, and that way the dollar debt will reduce.
This crisis, and everyone is talking about it, is like no other crisis that the world has known, because the origin of it is not economic or financial like it was, for example, back in 2008. This is because of health issues, and we are looking, all of us, including you, I believe, we're looking to the remedy that would be a vaccine, hopefully coming in the near future. What could be such remedy for the economy at this stage?
It's a difficult question. There's no answer that solves all the problems. I think we have to make sure that we welcome FDI, and we make sure that the investors that are here and investors that are knocking on our doors are welcome in this country. If you take care of your own investors and businesses, they have friends, they have other partners, etc., that come and knock on their doors and always say, can we invest in Georgia? Right now, we have seen that over the last few years, FDI has not really grown much, to say the least. In fact, it has come down quite significantly. The latest 1 year is probably because of COVID, but I think we are at a point when there's a fantastic chance to come out of this environment with a strong message to the investors that they are welcome here.
Wish you more certainty in these tough times.
Thank you very much, Elena, and same to you. And I hope that we will see a strong recovery next year for all of us.
Georgi, as we clearly see, listening to the CEO of the Systemic Bank, two main emphases. One on investment, strongly including FDI, and of course tourism recovery will be the main drivers of the economic growth in this country going forward.
Elena, meanwhile, we can already say that TBC Capital, for example, has already revised downward tourism expectations once again and sticks to the view that incoming tourism recovery in Georgia will be rapid once the restrictions are lifted.
Today, by the way, is the day when new flights are being added from both Tbilisi and Kutaisi airports, and clearly the Georgian sky is more open from today than it was before. However, on the background that the virus spread accelerates and the number of countries reintroduce strict mobility restrictions, the big question now is how much time will be needed till tourists feel safe to travel again? $1 million question, it seems, right now.
Indeed. Let's see what Wizz Air's communication officer told our reporter exclusively, Maria Madamia, who covers the topic for us from the strategic location, Shota Rustaveli International Airport.
Starting from today, Georgia is set to resume regular flights to 10 more cities. Tbilisi Shota Rustaveli International Airport will add Doha, Warsaw, Athens, Amsterdam, Vienna, Berlin and Milan as renewed destinations. As for Kutaisi International Airport, flight will be resumed to Katowice, Vilnius and Dortmund. As it seems, low-cost flights will kick off from summer and the government assures that no further major lockdowns are not in sight. Low-cost air company Ryanair will not commence flights in Georgia for the winter navigation season. Ryanair has announced a big cut to its winter flight schedule due to epidemiological conditions in the European countries. And beyond, the company will operate at only 40% to 60% of the last year's capacity. The decision will also affect the winter navigation season in Georgia. Passengers affected by the cancelled flights were informed and alternative options had been offered, the statement reads. Ryanair's decision comes with the government statement that the resumed flights will be really regular together with the charter flights.
It will be really regular. Regular flights differ from charter ones as they can be planned flexibly. The company agrees each charter flight with us. As for the regular flights, they agree once a month and fly on that schedule for the whole month. As for flight frequencies, it depends on the commercial condition of the airlines and our approaches, because we have decided to gradually open flights around the world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. We'll be landing in the airport in just a few minutes.
I do not remember even a single case when the airline asked us to increase flight frequency and we restricted. Natia Turnava, the Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, responded BMG, but despite this statement, the corporate communications manager of the Hungarian airline Wizz Air told us that despite their great desire, the company was not able to open a closed base in Kutaisi during the winter navigation season.
Winter season probably won't allow us to reopen the base, but we're determined to reopen it, as I said earlier, with the start of the summer season. And let's hope that we'll have a vaccine by then, restrictions will ease, and we'll be able to fly our regular schedule from Kutaisi.
So the sky of Georgia is open from today and we will keep track of how regular the flights are from and to our country. However, according to the private sector focus, travel recovery will take some time until tourists feel safe.
Where next seems to be a very timely question to ask, both in the context of the pandemic and the final results of the elections. But when business asked this question a couple of days ago, joining voices into an international campaign powered by GD Alco, the main motivation was to see opportunities in this huge challenge of the year 2020, uncertainty. So where next? Our reporter Anna Tavadze leads us to the answer.
World's best-selling single malt whiskey brand Glenfiddich and its distributor to Georgia, GD Alco, have asked the most relevant and crucial question for the business community in Georgia: where next? Glenfiddich is known for its strategy, scope, and uniqueness, not only in terms of its products, but in terms of its approach to corporate social responsibility. This is why we weren't surprised that the brand, in partnership with Forbes Women Georgia, has provided the business community with a platform for discussing the current issues and challenges industries face during the times of an unprecedented crisis.
I'm very happy to be part of the platform of the discussion of the people, to share our experiences, to share our issues. I think that it's really time to reform, to change, and really to optimize on a company level or even country level or on a personal level, and use this crisis in terms of opportunities and potential and capitalize on that.
The CSR initiative is generally very important from the companies because develop like the area where you are making the business. It's not the short-term business, it's a long-term business. And when you are doing the long-term business, it's always important to do this social corporate responsibility.
Beyond the held discussion, which serves as an additional layer of the global discussion about overcoming the economic and social issues posed by the worldwide pandemic, Glenfiddich sent one important message, highlighting the importance of change-driven mindset. Uncertainty is possibility. This message depicts the core purpose of Glenfiddich: to inspire hardworking, future-oriented leaders and contribute to economic advancement by supporting and empowering people in times of crisis.
So first of all, thanks to Glenfiddich that they are supporting leaders and successful people in our country. That's truly very important. In every crisis we have to think about opportunities, and this crisis is the same. So leaders, people, and I represent the field of education. So educated people and education is the future.
And I think that all challenges might become opportunities. And right now, for me, like as a representative of small and medium-sized business, I think that this is a time that we have to think differently outside of the box in order to be ready.
Leaders of Georgian business community agree that the best way to handle any crisis, including the one we're in now, is to shift our attitude, act, and prove that uncertainties can indeed be turned into possibilities.
Yes, where next? And for the local production, the pandemic might definitely be an opportunity, since due to the disruptions of the value chain, more emphasis is and will be on the local production. So, Elena, what's made in Georgia for this time?
This is such a case, Georgi, when on your question, where next, I have a very motivating answer. Forward.
Yeah.
This is exactly how the business qualifying in producing meat and meat products is called, operating on the Georgian market since 2018 and having big plans for exports.
So, who else but our reporter Salome Chipashvili will tell us more about Forward, and Georgi Maharadze, who runs the business as its head of the commercial department.
Forward appeared on the market in 2018. Since then, we have been decently exploring the way in a competitive environment. Now we are quite firmly represented in the Georgian market. As for the name, we wanted it to be associated with the modernity adapted to the millennials, so we chose Forward and Forwarded as the main term. Forward means development and advancement. The source of inspiration for why we chose the field of meat products is the recent past. Meat products are generally trendy in Georgia, but sausages have become exceptionally popular in the last 20 to 30 years. The first investment was 1.5 million lari, which increased and will continue to grow in the future because business guides us towards growth. Our products are in high demand and we want to introduce more initiatives. We started with just 3 tons. 2 years later, we produce about 15 tons of finished products per day. As for plans, we want to master the enterprise's full technical resources. We have a full coverage through Georgia, which is one of the main advantages facilitated by an enterprise equipped with the latest technology and relevant warehouses in regional centers Batumi and Kutaisi. At the moment, we have 231 employees. With the development of the business, this number will increase. Training and specialization initiatives are a part of our daily life. The production process is especially important. We want to make buying meat products a positive experience. We adapted to the new trends and uncertain circumstances that the pandemic caused. We had minimal losses, we continuously supplied products and are now successfully dealing with upcoming challenges. We are now ready for a scenario for which the world may not have been ready in early February. One of the main goals is to popularize Georgia's meat products. We want to follow this direction. Therefore, we must constantly supply the market with innovation. Also, we plan to expand our exports mainly to neighboring countries, be it Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia. This will be an additional resource for both us and the economy. The phase of negotiations has started, but we stumbled upon some difficulties caused by the geopolitical processes. However, next year we will agree on the range and terms of delivery, which will allow us to achieve our export goals.
And it's time for Forbes 30 Under 30, the only project in Georgian media currently which aims at finding young and gifted people and securing their motivation by their association with the global brand Forbes. This time we will tell you the story of a Georgian smart king, Nick, which became Amazon's favorite product and which we call a real Lord of the Rings.
Yes, Nick allows you to replace any passcode or card, and you can also manage an Android smartphone. The Ring can load lots of information, links, files. You can even share them with another smartphone. Tesla owners, lucky you guys, are especially interested because it can open any door virtually. In short, how does the company deal with the pandemic and what are the main challenges for Georgia's 30 Under 30 in the checkpoints?
Nick makes authentication effortless and secure. We converted Bulky Wallet into a fashionable tiny ring that combines different kinds of cards like payment, access, or even key card for vehicle. Currently, Knick is available worldwide, including in the United States, Europe market, or Korean. But unfortunately, in Georgia, it is not fully functionally because it has not payment function, and Georgia is a country with an underdeveloped economic. So we are working to make available this product with full functionality in this country. And on parallel side, we are working to improve product features globally. Currently, our main target and main customers are people who are owner of Tesla because the product replaces Tesla key card, and it is super convenient and a really seamless experience to wearing instead of physical key. On other side, the product is available with access systems, so you can use the ring instead of access cards. Of course, we have competitors, but most key factors and most advantages of our product is that it is fully customizable, it is available in many designs, many colors, and it provides a really seamless experience. It is perfect fit for wearers, and this is most key factor why customers prefer our products. And recently we have negotiation with some foreign investors. One is from UAE, like in Dubai. Recently we added a bracelet. It has the same functionality as ring, and both of them are very popular product in a Knik community. Also, we have new announcement. We launched a hand sanitizer bracelet. It is perfect accessory for daily use to decrease the spread of COVID-19.
We don't know what the future holds for Knik and its founders, hopefully everything best, but today we actually have an example which is much easier to relate to, rather than to Elon Musk or Bill Gates or, for example, Walmart's Alice Walton, for that matter. Today we have a living Georgian billionaire in his early 40s.
Yes, and the founders of Kazakh fintech platform Kaspi are new billionaires after a successful IPO on the London Stock Exchange. Forbes reported this week. Co-founder Vyacheslav Kim is worth just over $2.5 billion, while CEO and co-founder Mikhail Lomtadze owns a slice worth over $2 billion. Shares of the company started trading at last Thursday at an initial price of $33.75 and closed Tuesday at 41.8. Kaspi claims to be Kazakhstan's largest payments and fintech marketplace company with over 7 million monthly users from a population of an estimated 18 million. Its catch-all super app for payments, loans and banking has, it claims, played an increasingly integral part of people's daily lives in Kazakhstan as the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated consumer adoption of cashless payments, e-commerce and digital financial services, according to a company statement before the IPO.
Kaspi earned 515 million USD in net income on 1.3 billion in revenue in 2019, according to its prospectus. And the company appears to have flourished during the pandemic, netting 286 million USD in profits on just over 740 million USD in revenue in the first half of 2020. The IPO was the largest London listing by a company from Kazakhstan since 2007 and is the largest international technology-focused IPO in London this year to date. Forbes quotes Ayuna Nichayeva, head of Europe and at the London Stock Exchange. By the way, Archilga Checheladze also remembered this case in the interview, and it was quite emotional and inspiring at the same time.
The real hero for me is the guy in Kazakhstan now, a Georgian guy who was taking a bank to an IPO and has become a billionaire.
Yes.
You know the story, and that's something that I would like the students and the young to aspire to, and it's fantastic to see that is possible.
Yeah.
Which is
more Kaspi in Georgia.
Yes, more Kaspi or more stories in Georgia.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I mean, it's the individual story of somebody that has been in our generation, in fact, in his early 40s, and has studied here, has created certain things, and went and created something else, and has achieved a fantastic result. Now, more of this kind of stories are what's needed for our youth to get even more inspired, so that they can pursue the opportunities. And then it's our job to make sure to give them the opportunities.
I have to say that I fully agree with Archil that we need more such successful cases, many more successful, wealthy, innovative Georgian names locally and globally, and many more examples to talk, to cover, to write about. That's why we're here.
Can't agree more with both of you on this. That's why for the end of the program, I have another inspirational story. Young woman, this time to be the first one to have a law office right in Manhattan. Yes, New York, the most competitive market of all. Her business is young too. It kicked off in July 2019, but Ekay Gudia is already an employer, has her own team, and covers all the expenses. Here we go.
You have set up a law office straight into New York, helping people there. How did you get to that point?
After my graduation from Harvard, I passed the bar exam in New York, and I always wanted to practice before New York courts, practice US law in general. So we established, with my colleagues, a law office in New York. That was in 2019, July.
Can you bring some examples without specifications, but what are some of the types of the cases that you were dealing with?
Immigration, commercial contracts, also formation of companies in New York, like LLC or corporation or non-for-profit, formation of organizations. These are very briefly our areas of practice. We're 3 licensed lawyers in New York, and we're gradually building the client base.
On your staff, you also have locals that are involved in your offices,
yes,
right?
Yes, definitely. So 2 persons are based locally there. One is my longtime colleague and friend, American lawyer. He's also dual qualified in Massachusetts and New York. And one is Georgian, but US qualified, who lives there, our associate attorney, who is New York qualified, and she has a long time experience in this area, and she joined our team as well.
You know, as they say, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. So how did you manage to establish yourself? Because we all know that New York is like the most highly competitive market when it comes to practicing law. So what was your niche that you found out for you to be established and for you to have demand there?
That is true, and it's a very excellent question. It's very hard. Obviously, the market is very competitive in New York. It's important to have on the team a client development, business development person who is qualified in marketing and client retention. And I have that kind of person who was with me from the foundation of the firm, who conducted. Yes, Nina, Nina Kobachidze, who was from the start very active in marketing and PR relations. It's very important. But of course, once you get the client, you got to make sure they are satisfied with the services. And we try to be really bespoke in our services, which means we offer tailor-made services. We take clients' interest to our heart. We're compassionate lawyers, so that is something that clients like. Sometimes we do more counseling work, like shrinks, rather than legal, but we're counselors at law as well, so we have to take that into consideration. Clients like to be advised and counseled. This is 2 different and really important functions. And when they are happy, word of mouth is of utmost importance, and they spread the news and they post websites. So we use digital marketing tools a lot to target and to attract clients.
From business-wise, is it already profitable for you to do this job?
Yes, exactly. It is profitable already. First year was we went break even, which was quite nice. It was first half a year actually. We started 2019 July and we closed the year. So we went break even. We covered all our costs, all our salaries, and so on. We became an employer already, which I'm proud of.
What is the percentage of like winning the cases?
We're newly established, so I can't be very self-satisfied to announce that we win 95% of cases. It's not even ethical to do so. However, we're quite happy with the results that we achieved. Some cases last for months, for more than a year. So we don't have a result yet, but we do have small kind of achievements on the way, like as detention centers, we managed to release about 50 people from those jails on parole or through the court proceedings. We won the case and they were granted immigration status, and we released them and through our efforts, and we are proud of that effort, and clients see that.
Who are your clients? Are those Americans? Are those immigrants? Who are?
Yeah. Yes, mostly immigrants from our region who live in New York. Some of them are Americans who want other types of work like contract drafting or forming a company in New York or registering a trademark, this type of transactional and administrative work we do for Americans, but mostly when we deal with the immigration courts, those are foreigners who seek immigration status in the U.S. Those are Georgians residing in New York, in New York City. Those are other country representatives, like I have Indian client, I have Japanese client. There are a lot of Georgians actually in Brooklyn. We don't even have exact number, how many are they, and we believe they are at least 100,000 Georgians living in New York City, which is a huge number.
This is the first precedent when you do not service these people from Georgia, but you also have your office in New York, apart from that you are a woman, a young woman who's doing that.
Actually, this is very interesting question. You touched upon the physical presence. There was a recent change in legislation in New York, and New York licensed lawyers, if they want to practice, they have to be physically present. So they have to have physical offices in New York. That's quite a protectionist kind of policy that New York adopted. But on the other hand, I had to, if I wanted to maintain my license and practice law in New York, I had to have physical premises in New York State. And that's why I decided to actually do that. I always wanted to practice common law, because before that I practiced law in Georgia. This is continental law. Courts are different here. A lot of injustices here. And I wanted to experience what's a real rule of law and where I can practice.
That's a very interesting comment. And what are some of the fundamentals that you see in New York for the rule of law that you would like to see in Georgia as well? And you mentioned that we are also involved in commercial disputes, which is a huge thing for Georgia. Like all the business community is urging for this reform to have some kind of efficiency in dealing with specifically commercial disputes. So what are some of the fundamental differences that you would like to see in Georgia as well?
Yeah, exactly. So the important part is that you know for sure when you go to New York judge, for instance, that he is impartial. And if you present arguments, if you work hard properly on the case and you have legal precedents, you have all the arguments, and you present you represent your client's interest in court, you know that this will be taken into account properly. You have the right to be heard, right? And here in Georgia, I had horrible experiences whereby I present the case well, I know that my client is right, I present arguments, I plead before the judge, and I can see that judge is not really interested in my arguments because he has prejudged it already or prejudiced my client for some reasons, for instance, political reasons or whatsoever. And that is unfortunate. That is where lawyers' work is quite useless, I must say. First pleading that I had in the New York court showed me how how this works, actually, how due process. So you have access to justice. You plead your case, and you know that you are being heard.
And probably
and
how
not
much more
disregarded.
rewarding, how much more rewarding it is for a lawyer. For a lawyer as well. Thank you. Ega, you are in Tbilisi now, right?
Right now, yes.
Yeah. So what brought you here?
So I'm here because of pandemics. Everything is online and remote now. Unfortunately, New York has been hit severely, COVID-19. Courts have been working remotely ever since. Hearings are done online, or they call it telephonic conference or video conference. So we do a lot of stuff online. So I can do from here, although the time difference exists, but I do start work in the evenings. And of course, 2 other lawyers are on the spot there, but we don't have in-person appearances in courts, for instance, or in-person meetings with the clients. We want to avoid as much as possible social distancing and all the protocols. And pretty much a lot of work has been converted into a remote online work, including the courts.
So after this pandemic ends, hopefully the checkpoints will come to you and visit you at the office in New York to
With
cover.
pleasure. We'll be happy to welcome you in Chrysler Building. This is a historic landmark building downtown, in Midtown Manhattan, beautiful building. And we'll be happy to host you there when this all ends.
Well, we did well, Elena. Well, at least I think so. This is our approach and our answer to politics and to elections.
Definitely. We stand for the rich, prosperous, democratic Georgia where the private property is respected and protected and opportunities are available for everyone. Everything else will come. Trust us.
Yes, trust us and follow us on BMG and Forbes G. See you next Sunday.